Hello and welcome to Comedy After Dark, the final chapter. This really is the final chapter, and I'll explain that in a moment. But first, I'm Mike Burke, and you're probably wondering, why the hell are you dressed like that? Why, Mike? Why? Why must you dress like that and have Christmas lights up? What the hell's wrong with you? And I would say to that, shut up! Shut the hell up! I don't have to answer to you. I don't have to answer to any of you. Why are you all looking at me right now? Stop it! Okay, look, I'm just having an episode. Seriously, the reason why I'm dressed like this is because every season for the last 5 seasons, I become Santa Claus. People from all over the world actually order personal video messages from me as Santa. I also do another version called Drunk Bad Santa, where I'm a little more vulgar, a little more Comedy After Dark style. So I'm dressed like this because I just finished playing Santa. I just had an order, and I had the wig and the beard. And instead of undressing and getting all ready to do this special, I thought, I'll just do it this way. And you know what? I'm going to do something that I never would have done on the show. I'm going to let you see me with messy hair. Look. Ah! Okay, there it is. So, all right. I didn't comb it. Why should I? I'm wearing a hat. Stop judging me, people. Seriously. Shut up! You, back there. The one who just yelled out, he has my baby. Shut up. We're going to actually talk about that. Why did I say shut up on the show so much? Because everybody was yelling and being annoying? I'm going to explain that. So, what is this special episode? Originally, it was going to be a documentary. I was going to have behind-the-scenes footage and the best of clips and whatever I was talking about you would see, and there'd be music and me not looking at the camera as if some reporter's talking to me even though nobody's there and it's actually me talking to a wall. And I was going to make it look really cool. And then I thought, I don't want to do that. For me, I'm done with this show. It's over for me. This is the final chapter. And that's for the first time for me since 1994. Or I should say 92. We started the show in 92, and I never really had an ending. The cast shot the 100th episode, that was our final show, and they moved on. But I never had a chance to because something happened in our last year. Our Christmas Vacation movie was supposed to air on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and I missed the deadline. So instead we had to throw a best of 1993 episode in its place. The movie took us 6 weeks to do. It was so much work, and we weren't even finished filming by the time Christmas came along. So I decided, okay, we're scheduled for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. I'll have to quickly get this episode done, and we'll air it then. Now this is a movie, by the way. And little did we know, we were just going to do our version of it. Little did we know, we took it so seriously that it became like a feature film, like a big-time Hollywood production. I mean, we had sets, props. We shot, like I said, for 6 weeks, almost every day, after school, on weekends, after Christmas. I mean, and some days were brutal. For most of the season, it was warm. It was kind of a warm December. And then at the end, it went down. Some of the days we shot in our last days were so cold that the equipment failed. So anyways, we finished filming and I quickly rushed to editing. Now back then I didn't have a computer. I didn't have any special editing equipment. I had 2 VCRs and a camcorder. And I had to hook all those things up and transfer video from one tape to another and edit this way, that way. And it was complicated. And the bad thing about doing that is you couldn't get clean cuts. Because VHS was annoying. You would record and it would continue recording for maybe a second more, or it would erase the last second of the last scene, and then it would leave like this rainbow over the video. So you'd see these rainbow lines, these colored lines. It really sucked. It wasn't precise. So anyways, I finished the episode after not sleeping for a week. It was school vacation. I was a senior in high school at the time. And that's all I did, day and night. As a matter of fact, I didn't go back to school when we went back after the break because that was the day I finished editing. and then rushed the tape over to the TV station. So New Year's Eve comes along, they start playing it, and they played about 30 minutes of it. And then they stopped it. And then they called me. And they said, look, we just can't play it like this. As a matter of fact, we want you to come to our studio here and edit all the episodes here. Don't do it from home anymore. Otherwise, we can't air them until you do that. Now, we had a contract, but the thing is, there was no money involved. So I couldn't do anything about it. Now, here's the problem. I lived far away from the TV studio. I had my own studio in my house. That's where I filmed the show. That's where I did all the editing. There was no way that I could drive, because I didn't have a car, that I could drive from where I was located to where the TV studio was. It was too far. And I couldn't get rides from other people. I couldn't depend upon other people for that. I had no way of getting there. No, absolutely no way. So for me, it wasn't the end of the show. We were just going to truck on as normal, and I was hoping that I would find some kind of solution. Some way of getting these shows back on. Whether I could save some money and buy equipment, or a ride would come up, but either way, I had no way of airing it. But we continued taping. So for our final year, 1994, none of our episodes made it to television. Now we get to spring. And I had found out that I had to move from my home. We announced that the show was ending on our 100th episode. And a new cable company buys out our cable company. So not only have I not been able to get the show on the air, now the chances have just changed. It's not good. And this cable company, the new one that took over, got rid of our TV station. But they had an alternative. It was a national cable access station. So it was low budget television, but it was programming from all over the United States. And they were looking for new programs. I remember filling out the application. But I didn't have a way of editing, and this was better quality television. There was no way I could get away with showing our episodes with VCR to VCR editing. But I knew it was a great opportunity, so I was going to focus on that after the show ended. After the show ended, after I graduated from high school and moved out, I was going to then focus on getting those ready and try to get them on that TV station. And how great would that be? It was the same call letters, Channel 8. Now, in my state of Connecticut, Channel 8 is on another channel, but it's Channel 8. But it was actually on the dial, channel number 08. So we were in a great spot. Originally, when we were on TCI cable. But the new cable company kept that same station, but that's where they had their national thing. So that would have been great for us. We would have been seen nationally. That would have been huge. Huge. Well, anyways, someone else came along as we ended the show and took over that company and ended cable access completely. Ended that TV station. It was done. They ended up replacing it with some kind of news type, opinion type show thing. I remember one of the hosts was the guy who used to host a show called Hard Copy, Barry something, which I had a run-in with, by the way. Me and him went back and forth with some angry emails around that time. But anyways, that was it. The show could not go on television again. The opportunities were gone. So the show sat in boxes, all these videotapes, VHS tapes. I didn't know what to do with them. But for me, the chapter wasn't over. There was still somehow an opportunity would come up where I would finally get these episodes seen. And years went by. 2006, YouTube came along. But the problem was, YouTube only allowed very short video clips at the time. I don't even remember how long it was, like 30-second videos maybe? And then a couple years later, they increased that to maybe, 10-minute videos. But now, in modern times, they've changed everything, and you have unlimited length of video that you can show. There are people who have 8-hour long videos. I'm not sure who's watching 8 hours of video, but the fact is you can do that now. And so that was something they did maybe a few years ago. And so I knew back then, here it is. I can now put full episodes of Comedy After Dark on YouTube. But that also means having to go back and edit all 100 episodes. Get them all ready for YouTube, reformat them, put them in high definition. I mean, that's going to be a lot of work. So I put it off. So for me, again, this chapter wasn't over. Finally, this particular year, 2016, I made the commitment to do it. And I started. And it took a long time. I spent most of the year doing this. And I went back through each episode, cleaning them up, editing them, trying to make them better. Now I've got professional editing equipment, a great computer program. I can get those cuts. I can remove things that needed to go and really do my best to try to restore it the best I can. And I finally finished, and I started putting the episodes online. This video is airing on November 17th. Later, the 100th episode of the show will finally be seen. The final episode for the first time since we filmed it on June 25th, 1994. And it's a great episode. One of my favorites. Not only was it fun to film, we had a lot of the cast members come back. Everybody had such a good time. There was so much energy in that studio that day, and it translates on the video. But also, I love the opening. It was something I had a vision for ever since the show started, as I always planned ahead. And I imagined that the show would end where we would show all of our opening themes, you know, how it would evolve over time, and the many times people announced me and I'd come out, and things like that. And I just thought it would be kind of an exciting way to go back in time and then meet up with our final chapter. So it's a great episode, and I'm so happy to finally be able to have it be seen. I want to talk a little bit about the show itself, because this is probably the last time I'm really going to talk about it. That's why I've chosen the name of this episode to be called The Final Chapter, because this is my final chapter. And there's no bells and whistles, no music background, no video clips. I'm just going to tell some quick stories and then I'm going to go. It had been my dream to do my own show ever since I was 13. And when I say it was my dream, it's all I thought about. I'd be in school daydreaming, imagining interviewing celebrities. I got into the late night talk shows at the time. I watched them every night. I looked forward to it. Watching them made me feel good. And I knew that that's where I belonged. It gave me a chance to be funny, to do my celebrity impersonations, to do skits, to interview famous people, and to do it every night. And I knew that's what I wanted more than anything. And at that time, I had no aspirations of being a film director or a movie producer or a writer. I just wanted to be an actor. I was so much into this dream that I took some scrap stuff we had around the house and I built my own talk show set. Now, we had a kitchen. When they built my house, they screwed up the kitchen countertop. So they just threw it in the garage and we used it for a workbench. So I took that and I cut it, and there I had my top for my desk. And then I took some scrap wood and I built a frame and some plywood and I painted it. And there it was, my talk show desk. And then some old furniture we didn't have, I put that next to it and I had like a blackboard behind me and I called it the Mike Burke Show. And I had this fake microphone. It was one of those microphones you record a little message in there, you know, and you say your name and then you play it back. And I set that up. And I would sit behind there and imagine myself doing the show. So much so, I even got a sports jacket, a blazer. just to do that. Just to feel it, so I could feel it. And I would sit there with my jacket, and the same one you saw on the show, and do my show, even though nobody was there. It was a dream. A dream I wanted more than anything else. Then one day in study hall, my friend John Landolfi. Now, John and I met in an interesting way. I had recorded a stand-up comedy act that I did at a restaurant, and it aired on television. John happened to see that special and thought I was super funny. He thought I was the funniest guy that ever lived. I mean, I was like, John, please. No, he thought I was funny. He nicknamed me Man of a Thousand Voices. And when he saw me in school, I had never met him before. He's like, it's the Man of a Thousand Voices. I saw you on television. That was funny. I love that thing, that show, or whatever he said. I'm just paraphrasing. But he was enthusiastic, and he really did love the comedy that I did. So we became friends. And he became my biggest cheerleader. He would tell everybody he knew about me. I had people coming up to me all day going, you're the guy that does the voices, right? It was because he was telling them. And he was saying, you got to go find him and listen to what he does. Ask him to do Ronald Reagan. Ask him to do this voice. So we ended up in study hall. I was in the 10th grade. He was in the 11th grade. We're in study hall, and he starts talking about how he liked to make his family laugh. And one of the things he would do is he dressed up like Madonna, who was his favorite artist, and he would perform Like a Virgin on video and then play it to his family. And he would say he would get dressed in all black, I think it was like a black leotard, and then he would put his tighty whities over that, and he would put a bra on, and he'd really go all out. And he had the wig and everything. And he would just make them laugh. But something inside of me triggered, because I thought that is so Saturday Night Live. That is very, skit comedy type thing, sketch comedy. And a thing went off in my head, like a switch. And without much thought, I said, we should do a TV show. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah. Let's do a comedy TV talk show. It'd be a comedy variety show, like a mix between Saturday Night Live, David Letterman, and Jay Leno. And, we could do it every week and get it on television. And he was like, we can't do that, man. What are you, crazy? How could we possibly do that? I'm like, I think we could do it. And as a matter of fact, my friend who videotaped my comedy special and put it on TV was also in that study hall, James. And so I was like, James, if we did a television show, is there a way we can get it on public access? And he goes, my mother runs public access. She's actually the person in charge. So yeah. And I'm like, see, John, we have a way. He didn't quite believe me. I then told him about my fake talk show set and told him I had photos to prove it. Again, he didn't believe me. Next day, I come in, I have the photos, and I'm like, look, it's real. And he's like, are you serious? Within those 2 days, I had a cast, I had a cameraman, and I had a TV station. I immediately went home after school and started working on the set, adding real microphones, a real stage, curtains, audience seating. I didn't waste any time. I had a whole show developed in just days, ready to go. I started writing it. Still, John wasn't quite on board. This was February. It's now March. And I'm waiting for people to show up. I would sit in my living room window. This is how badly I wanted this to happen. Sit in my living room window and wait, or actually my dining room. We had a big bay window, so I was actually sitting in the window and waiting for people to show up, and nobody would show up. And I was so disappointed. Next Saturday comes along, same thing. Nobody would show up. It happened 3 times until finally on the 4th time, in March, James, Aaron Fleming, James Glover, by the way, Aaron Fleming, my brother Chris, and me. We were all there, ready to go, but still no John. And Jen Wetmore, who was known back then as Jen Souls, also did not show up. So we decided to just film it. And it didn't turn out too well. And there's not much footage of it. Only 2 skits from our first episode actually are from this day. But we decided to use it as a test day. Just testing it out. It would then take me months, what was it, March, April, May. So about 2 months later to finally get everybody to come. And still, on May 31st, a cloudy day, I think there was a bit of a drizzle. The day before, our town of North Brantford had a massive flood. So that was all in the news and everything. And it's a Sunday, May 31st. And finally, James and Aaron show up. Chris comes, same people, but no John. So we call him. Oh, I don't know. I don't think I can get there and this and that. And James is like, nope, I'm coming to get you. Without even, before I could hang up the phone, James was in the car driving to get him. I think John just hadn't never done that before. He didn't really, I hadn't earned his trust yet. I haven't proven myself to him yet. So he didn't really think this was reality. So we brought him in and we finally filmed our first episode. When that episode was over, everything changed. John changed. He completely fell in love with the show. He understood what I was planning and what I was doing. He totally got it. And he got on board and became one of our most enthusiastic cast members of all. He couldn't wait to do the next episode. As a matter of fact, he said, let's do it next week and let's do 2 in a row. And so we did. And John would become one of the most important parts of the show because it was hard. It was very hard. It was hard to keep it going and hard to get it on television, but John was always there, pushing and pushing and pushing. I know that on the show you see me as Mr. Outgoing and comedy, and I'm telling people to shut up and this and that. But I was actually very shy. I didn't talk much outside of that camera. I was very quiet in the classrooms, and I wasn't, even when people would show up to watch us film or come to film, I wasn't all that outgoing until the camera started rolling. I was very quiet. John was the opposite. So he got things going. He made these things happen. Comedy After Dark was amazing because of how it evolved. Our original name was The Comedy Hour, and I just never liked that name. It was just too common. And so that's why we, in February of 93, me, John, and my brother Chris went through a thesaurus and looked for an alternative, and that's where we came up with Comedy After Dark. But if you watched the show and you watched each episode, you would see how it changed over time. And one of the reasons why is because I would watch every episode back and see myself, and I hated it. And then I would keep that in my mind when I would do the next episode, and I would change all of the things I did wrong because I was so conscious of it. I had an accent, and you'll notice that that accent was stronger in the beginning and disappeared. Now, a lot of people wonder why I was always yelling, "Shut up." Believe it or not, people requested me to do that. I think it started out probably at first because there was a noise, someone was saying something, and I just went, "Shut up!" And people laughed. And I started to realize that that's not something you normally see on television. You don't see, the late night talk show host telling people to shut up. And so I started to do it more. And my cast loved it. You may think that we were angry at each other at times because they'd be yelling. Like I'd be like, "Would you please shut it?" Or I think I would say, "Would you shut your trap?" They were egging me on because it was just fun. And they loved to see me get angry. Because I never really got angry. I never got pushed that far on the show. I think maybe once I did. But they just liked to get me that way because it was funny for humor. So when you would see me, it's like Santa beard hair flying all over. So that's why I did it. And I would actually have fans of the show come up to me and say, "It is so funny when you tell everybody to shut up. That is so funny." So that's why I did it. That's why I did it. Also, you probably wonder, if you watched the show, what happened to the band. We started out the show with no band, then we had a band, and then we didn't. We had something on the show called the 3 strikes deal. And basically what that was is, if you couldn't show up, we just wanted you to call. If you couldn't show up, it was no big deal. We got it. But call us up, give me a notice ahead of time, because we have skits that are written. Yeah, it was all improvisation, but we had an outline. And who was going to be playing what character. And so if someone couldn't show up suddenly, and we found out the hard way when we're actually filming the episode, suddenly we're without a skit. We had time to fill. We were an hour show at first. So the rule was, call ahead of time to let us know you can't make it. If you don't, that's strike 1. Strike 1's a warning. You do it again, you're suspended from the next episode. Do it for a 3rd time, don't come back. You're fired. And it actually worked out really well, because there was never any anger. Everybody understood that rule. So when those few members of the band failed and got fired, there was no animosity, there was no anger. They were like, okay, I know, I screwed up. As a matter of fact, we had an open door policy for them. So if you got fired from the show, you could still come. We just weren't writing you in. But you could certainly come visit us and pop into a skit. So it's just that we couldn't depend upon you anymore, and you're not officially part of the show anymore. So we did have people come back. Chad came back all the time, which was great. But what happened is, eventually, between band members not showing up and losing their position there, and then some of the band members were local and were in the school band, and everybody had so many commitments, it became very difficult for them to get together as a full band. And it wasn't going to happen anymore. So we had to move on from it and just let the music go. That sounded profound. Let the music go. Then we had a revolving door. There was always reasons why people couldn't make it anymore. It was time-wise, or school things, or jobs they would get. So it was just a revolving door, and that's what happened. For me, Comedy After Dark was truly one of the greatest thrills of my life. It's been over 20 years since it ended. But I wouldn't change a thing, and I don't regret any of it. And if I could go back and do it again, I certainly would. I am where I am today because of it. The things I've learned, the way I live my life. I learned how to be a leader. Before that, I didn't know how to do that. But I found out, and I noticed how people followed me. They trusted me. And to be able to make what we made out of nothing is pretty remarkable. And to get to 100 episodes, even more remarkable. So I'm proud of this show. And I am happy, though, to move on from it and finally have my final goodbye. After this, you will finally get to see the 100th and final episode. I'm very proud of it. I want to thank every single person who helped make this show possible. And everybody who watched it. And all of you new fans who watch it now. If there's anything that I could teach you from this series, it is this. When you truly, truly believe in something, without a doubt, and you know it's going to happen, no matter what gets in your way, you are going to continue going. You never, ever give up. Because dreams actually do come true. It's not a fantasy. But a dream can't come true unless you make it happen. I saw an opportunity come up in what John had said to me. And I took that opportunity, and it created something. I didn't know. that moment in study hall, that one quick little tiny moment would change my entire life and still affect me to this day. It's pretty amazing. So never, ever give up on a dream. You will figure it out and you will make it happen. I'm living proof. Thank you for watching Comedy After Dark.